the microscopic anatomy later. And I've listed on the board, you can see some page numbers where you can follow along in your textbook as we go through these, because I don't have enough models to distribute across the entire classroom. So some hopefully come by you, but you'll have a chance to look at these later. Okay? But again, this material is new. It will not be on next Thursday's lab test. On Tuesday of next week, we'll review. We'll go over the slides. I think you've noticed by now there are quite a few over there. Wouldn't hurt to glance at them, take a look at them. Okay, so we'll go over the slides, we'll go over the models. Any questions you have, we'll hopefully cover at that time. Okay, and then a week from today is our next lab test, and it will cover through the lab that we did last time on metabolism. So don't forget that. There will be questions on metabolism, where these processes occur, glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, electron transport, how ATP is formed, SLP, amino-osmosis, oxidative phosphorylation, what goes in, what comes out, and concentrate, especially, as I said, on the number and kind of energy storage molecules produced in each process and overall. Okay? So that's what it's all about. It's about energy. Not making energy, but trapping energy that is helping you to do its cellular work. Synthesis reactions, to make things, move things across the membrane, and so on. Okay, all cells need energy. And all cells basically extract energy from energy sources, the light, photosynthetic organisms, and molecules, chemical molecules for other organisms like ourselves. All right, we're going to start then. If you get your handout, and this is a handout that you had before. This is the back page on the handout that you had. Yeah. Was that handed out to you? So if you turn to page 12. Sheet that you had on the digestive system metabolism. Okay, the sheet I gave you today is the rest of the urinary anatomy, the macroscopic anatomy. That's page 13. What? Don't have one what? What you got today? Page 13 is right here. So I hand it out today. Okay, now we got page 13. We're going to start on page 12, where it says urinary anatomy. Have that objective sheet? All right, the kidneys. Most people have a pair of kidneys. Kidneys do various things. The obvious function is to extract waste material from the blood. This is not digestive waste. This is cellular waste. In other words, the waste that cells generate when they carry on the normal metabolism. The kidneys, like many organs, are surrounded by a dense or fibrous connective tissue membrane called a capsule. We've seen it around lymph nodes, we saw it around the spleen, we saw it around the thymus. Various organs have capsules. So this is not unique. It's dense or fibrous connective tissue membrane that surrounds and protects the kidneys. By the way, renal, I think you figured out, refers to kidney. We talked about renal arteries before. Those are the arteries that supply blood to kidneys, renal veins drain blood to kidneys. Okay, the renal hilus. Renal hilus is an indented area on the medial margin of the kidney. And that's where blood vessels come into and exit the kidney. That's the renal hilus. Your book refers to it as the hilum. You can use either term, hilus or hilum. But again, it's just an indented area. And if you turn to page 963 in the 8th edition, the blue covered book, 957 in the later edition, the brown covered book, you can see a diagram of the kidney there, showing the general structure. Okay, the hilus is that indented area there on the medial margin where the blood vessels come and go. Okay, like many organs, it's divided into regions. The cortex is the outer region. The renal cortex is the outer region of the kidney. And It is lighter. It's this lighter region here, or superficially located. That's called the renal cortex. It appears granular because it's full of what are called renal corpuscles, which we'll talk about later. So these little round things that you see here and here and here, and here's one right here, they're found in the cortex. So again, the cortex is the outer region of the kidney. It's the lighter portion, not lighter in weight, but lighter in color. It appears granular because this is where the renal corpuscles are found. That's what these spherical structures are. That's an easy way to distinguish cortex from the inner region, which is called the medulla. Renal corpuscles are confined to the cortex. The inner part of the kidney is called the medulla, just like in many organs. The medulla, as you can see here, is darker in color, and it appears to be striated. It's got a lot of tubes that run roughly parallel to one another. So it's the inner, darker region of the kidney. Appears to be striated because you've got a lot of tubes running through it. So this is the medulla. The outer part here is the cortex. Okay? Now there are extensions of the cortex between the regions of the medulla, which you see here. These are called renal columns. The renal columns are extensions of the renal cortex that run between parts of the medulla. You see there are lighter areas here. What are called renal columns. They're extensions of the cortex that run between, into the kidney between parts of the renal medulla. The renal medulla itself, you can see, is in pyramid-shaped portions. So they're called renal pyramids. They look like pyramids, broad base and then tapered at the apex. So these are renal pyramids, and that's the arrangement of the medulla. Again, between the renal pyramids are these extensions of the cortex, the renal columns. But again, these dark areas that appear striated and pyramided shape are the renal pyramids. Okay. The broader portion of the renal pyramid, which faces the cortex, is called the base. And the tapered portion, which faces inward, is called the apex or papilla. Okay, so the base is the broader portion of the renal pyramid. And the tapered portion, which projects inward, is called the apex or papilla. Yes?
Do you care if we name it apex or papilla, or do you have a preference?
You can call it either one, but you find probably papilla is easier because there's dots running through it called capillary dots. Let me remind you what it is. What? Apex is the pointed part, and the tapered part. Okay? So I remember the apex, the heart, which was the more tapered part. And where was the base? Toward the top, the broader part. Okay? It was inverted. It's sort of like these out there. That's an inverted curve. Okay, there are also collecting chambers. These are known as calyces. That's the plural form of the word. The singular form is calyx. You'll notice that each renal pyramid here, the apex or papilla of the renal pyramid, projects into a cavity. That cavity that's associated with each renal pyramid is known as a minor calyx. A minor calyx. This little cavity here into which the apex or papilla of a renal pyramid projects is called a minor calyx. So it's a collecting chamber. 2 or 3 minor calyces merge into a larger collecting chamber called a major calyx. So each renal pyramid, the papilla here, okay, and you can see this in your book too, papilla project into a collecting chamber, minor calyx. 2 or 3 minor calyces converge into a larger chamber called a major calyx. Then all the major calyces merge into a common collecting chamber, which is called the renal pelvis. Of course, what am I leading up to? Tracing through the kidney, from the blood to the outside. Okay, so again, the renal pyramids, that's part of the medulla. You project inward, the tapered part, which is the apex papilla. Each one empties into a collecting chamber called a minor calyx. 2 or 3 minor calyces converge into a major calyx. All the major calyces converge into a common collecting chamber called the renal pelvis, which is this region right here. That's continuous then with the tube that drains urine from the kidney to the bladder, which is called the ureter or ureter. And there's one associated with each kidney. And then from the kidney then, the ureter or ureter carries the urine to the bladder, urinary bladder. That stores the urine temporarily, and that's drained from the body by a common tube called the urethra. Okay? One of the things I want you to do, as I said, is to be able to trace the flow of material from the blood, we'll assume it's waste material, to the outside of the body. Another thing I want you to do is to be able to trace blood flow through the kidney. And I've listed on your handout the pathway of blood. You can see on page 964, the 8th edition of the textbook, and page 958 in the 9th edition shows the rings of the blood vessels. The red ones are the arteries, the blue ones are the veins. And I want you to be able to take the blood from the abdominal aorta, and branching out that would be a renal artery, take the blood through the kidney, and then it emerges via a renal vein into the inferior vena cava. But I'd like to know all the blood vessels in between. So I want you to be able to trace the flow of waste, the blood outside the body, and also the blood flow into and out of the kidney. Okay? There are 2 traces you need to know on this. All right, so let's go through the blood flow. And notice it's listed, blood vessels in order under renal blood vessels. Okay? Again, that's on 964, 958, your textbook. You got your textbook handy. And we start with the renal arteries. Of course, there's one of each kidney. If you look at the model here, the big red vessel right here is the renal artery. That's coming off the abdominal aorta. And of course, it's supplying oxygen-rich blood to the kidney. And not only that, but it's supplying waste-laden blood to the kidney. Again, these are metabolic waste, so this blood, of course, is carrying waste products. The kidney is then going to filter out a lot of those waste products, so what emerges is cleaner blood in the vein. Fewer waste products there. And of course, as you know, you can't live without kidneys because otherwise you go into toxemia. Your blood is full of these toxic products, which can result in your demise. A person whose kidneys are not working go on kidney dialysis, where they put you on a machine that basically does the same thing. It removes these metabolic wastes. Okay, so this is the renal artery. The first branch is called a segmental artery, and that's the branches here. So the first branches off the renal artery are segmental arteries. Segmental arteries. Then there's a very short branch, and it's not even in your textbook, the latest edition. It was a previous edition. Very short one called a lobar artery. This little short one right here. But it won't be on your diagram, and it's not in the latest edition of the textbook. Okay, it's lobar. Branch it off the segmental. Very short one. Then coming off the lobar is an interlobar artery, and that is in your book. Interlobar artery. That's the ones here. And also right up here. And you probably figured out that this is a magnified version of one of the renal pyramids and the surrounding cortex, or adjacent cortex.
Are you going over the flow right now? Is that what you're like?
I'm going through the blood vessels.
Oh,
Okay? So where it says renal blood vessels, I'm going through this. All right? So again, renal artery sent off the abdominal aorta, branch off that segmental arteries, and a very short branch off that called a lobar. okay, which you can see on the models, but it's not listed in your book, a real short one. Then coming off that are these longer ones that run up here, basically, which are called the interlobar arteries. Interlobar arteries. Okay, then the artery basically goes into an artery that kind of arcs between the cortex and medulla. So this is called the arcuate artery. So it's red one right here. You see it here on these two. The arcuate artery. And coming off that is another artery called the interlobular artery. So be careful of that. We got an interlobar and an interlobular. That's the one here. To me it looks like a tree, like the trunk of the tree. Now your book has another name for it. It's called the cortical radiate artery. You can use either term. You call it interlobar or cortical radiate.
That's the number that it goes in.
Interlobular.
I don't think he's going through the flow yet. He said that he's just going through them. I don't think he's doing the flow yet. Yeah, he's not doing the flow. He's just showing us where they're at.